yogis, this is Anabelle here to bring you a nice, gentle beginner's flow. Thank you so much for clocking in and joining me today. We're going to be starting our practice on our mats in a seated position of your choice. Now, this practice is a beginner's yoga flow, so I recommend using some props if you do have them available to you. Today I'll be using a block and I'll be using a strap. If you do not have a block or a strap, you can always do a DIY makeshift project here at home. Maybe you can grab a pillow, a blanket, a towel, and then for the strap you can also grab maybe like a towel robe strap or something like that. Anything that works for you. So basically we just want the strap to be able to help us reach towards something, and we want the block to help us fill any empty spaces. So this is completely optional. So I'll give you just a moment now. Maybe you can pause the video and go grab any props. Or maybe you can grab yourself a nice glass of water or maybe some tea, and then we can get started. So when you're ready, you're going to make yourself comfortable as you can. You can be sitting like me. This is called an easy seat. You can do half lotus, which is where you grab one of your feet and you place it in the other hip crease. You can do full lotus if you're ready for that and that's in your practice, maybe grabbing both feet. Or maybe you come into a seated position with your knees together and you can sit on your towel, blanket, or block. So there's lots of options for you today. So for me, I will start in easy seat with my right leg in front. So once you're in your position of choice, lean forward and kind of try to wiggle around and find that sit bone that's underneath you. Try to lock it into place and sit still onto that sit bone. And then take a nice inhale in through the nose and start to lengthen. Imagine the air kind of injecting in through the toes and shooting up the top to the top of the head. So it's bringing you up and you're starting to elongate through the spine, lengthening through the back and spine, and then kind of pulling the shoulders down, create some nice space between the ears and the shoulders. And then let that air just kind of shoot out through the top of the head. So you're sitting up nice and tall, your back is nice and long. And then from here, maybe you tuck the pelvic bone slightly and engage that core so that you have a nice straight line in your spine. So we want to try to keep that spine nice and long and straight. Our core is engaged the entire practice. It's a little bit of a challenge because you might forget, so that's okay. It happens to all of us. But always try to do little mental checkpoints throughout your practice to kind of remind yourself like, oh, am I sitting up? Am I breathing? Etc. So from here, feel free to place your hands on your knees or maybe out to the side or at heart center. This is your preference. We're going to take a few deep breaths. Close your eyes for this portion. Start to focus on something that feels good, that brings you happiness, that brings you peace. Think about that. Think about the joy you feel when it comes to your mind. Maybe it brings a smile to your face. Take a few breaths in through the nose, welcoming that joy. And a few breaths out, maybe through the mouth. Since you're at the comfort of your home, another few breaths in through the nose, gently out through the mouth. Keeping that joy in your mind, in your heart. Wherever your hands are, you can bring your hands onto the knees and start to flutter the eyes open. We're going to slowly roll the shoulders back, start to welcome movement into the body. Rolling the shoulders, releasing any tension from the neck and the shoulder area. We tend to shrug a lot and hold a lot of tension in the neck and shoulders. So we're just rolling it back. One more big breath, and then exhale out. Very nice. Inhale, scoop the hands up above you. Exhale, palms come together at the top of the head and start to lower down. We're going to start to warm up our breath here. Inhale, wake up the body. Exhale out. And you can breathe however you feel fit. If you want to breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth, vice versa. Or maybe you want to practice a breathing technique called Ujjayi breath. This is my favorite breathing technique. Breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. It's a controlled breathing movement here. Let's do one more breath. And then exhale, slowly lower the hands down, back to heart center. Very nice. Take a quick little body scan here. Notice any areas of tightness. Notice if you're shrugging or if you're not sitting up straight. Maybe you adjust those postures now. Very nice. Gently bring those hands down onto the knees. You can open up your eyes. Fingertips are going to point inward towards each other. You're going to press those hands onto the knees and point your elbows out to the side. From here, take a deep breath in, press the knees down, hands down onto the knees, and then exhale, drop the right shoulder down, dipping it down, and take a peek over your left side. So stretching out that shoulder, pressing against the knees here, kind of stretching the thighs at the same time, looking over that left shoulder. And then inhale, bring it back to center, straightening the arms. Exhale, drop the left shoulder and peek over your right side. Stretching out that shoulder, pressing down on the knees here, stretching the thighs. You might feel a nice little pull on that lower back, outer hip area. Inhale, bring it back up. We're going to scoop the arms up. Inhale. Exhale, open up into a nice cactus arms. Elbows draw down, squeeze the shoulder blades back, palms facing forward. Inhale, rise the hands up. Let's try that again. Exhale, open up to your cactus. Nice. Inhale up. Exhale, draw the elbows down. Very nice. Last breath. Inhale up. Exhale, draw the elbows down. From here, we're going to bring it to a nice hug. You're going to give yourself some love, self-love. You can wrap whichever arm you like on top of the other and squeeze the arms together. Elbows stack on top of each other's. Hands come onto the shoulders, rolling the shoulders back. Try to squeeze the arms together and give yourself some love. Maybe you rock side to side. Nice big hug. We don't show ourselves enough love these days. From here, you're going to roll your head over to the right side, send it to the back, loosening up that neck some more, maybe one more circle. I like to close my eyes here, and then we're going to bring it back up to neutral. On your inhale, you're going to release your hug and open back to that cactus arm. Inhale, here you can take the gaze up, stretch the neck. On your exhale, give yourself that same hug, bring the arms back in, and then start to round the spine, tuck the chin down, bring the elbows down to tap the chest. Inhale, straighten the back, open up to your cactus. So we're really stretching our spine here and our neck. Exhale, round the spine, give yourself that big hug. Inhale up. Exhale in. We're doing one more big breath. Inhale, open up that chest. Exhale, bring it back and give yourself that one big hug. And then option to take the head back. You can start to straighten the back here. No round in the spine. And start to send the head back. Maybe you take it the other way in a different circle, a different direction. We'll do one more circle and then bringing it back to neutral. Release the hands back down onto the knees. Exhale, drop the right shoulder. Peek over the left shoulder. Inhale, back to your center. Exhale, drop that left shoulder and peek over your right shoulder. Very nice. Gently bringing it down. So from here, I'm going to, you can use your hands here, step forward with the right and left foot, and just come to a seated position with your feet nice and flat onto the mat. You can scoot your heels towards your glute, or you can scooch up to your heels. However you get there is perfect. Keep the feet about hip width apart so there's a nice little space in between your feet and toes are facing forward. Grabbing the front of the shins, we're going to press the chest to get on top of the thighs. So we're going to lift and press the chest up. Inhale, rise up to a nice tall seat. On the exhale, round the spine and pull the chest away from the knees. Maybe you tuck the chin here, a little seated cat-cow action. Inhale, pulling up. Exhale, rounding the spine and pulling away. And you're using your hands here to press against the shin. Try to stay away from the knee area. to kind of help guide you there. One last breath. Inhale here. Exhale out. Very nice. Inhale, rise back up to a seated. You're going to drop your right knee down to the side and the left will follow. Bottoms of the feet come together. Baddha Konasana, or a butterfly pose. So you're going to bring the bottoms of the feet together and try to scooch those heels inward as close as you can to the groin. And notice there's some space in between your knees and the mat. If you feel a little uncomfortable and a little tight in the hips, you can use some sort of filling. Maybe you have blocks, maybe you have a pillow or a blanket. You can do it on one side or on both sides. This is completely up to you. Otherwise, maybe just let gravity do its thing. It's naturally going to want to pull down on your knees. So maybe allow it and kind of stretch that inner groin and thigh area. Maybe add some movement by flapping your butterfly wings. And you can grab your ankles here if you'd like, or your big toes, just to kind of help you lock everything into place, loosen up that inner groin. And then we'll take a forward fold. So we're going to lift the chest, inhale. You can keep your hands on your ankles or feet, or maybe just crawl your hands forward. You're going to feel a lot of pressure in there. Take this down as low as you like. Maybe you take one step, maybe you take 2 steps. And the goal here is to try to keep that tailbone glued to the mat. Pull the hips back. Make sure you're not leaning forward too much. And just keep the gaze directly in front of you so that your neck and your back are nice and straight, nice and long. And then maybe you can add a slight bow to the head so the crown of the head is shining forward. Everything is staying nice and straight. The shoulders are pulled away from the ears. We'll take one more big breath. Maybe you take an extra step forward and maybe you just hold. This is completely up to you. Wherever you're at, you take it down to your level of pressure and preference, and then gently start to walk those feet back up, hands back up to the feet, extending out your right leg first, out directly to the side. Keep that left leg in right next to it. So from here, I'm going to flex my toes here. We're trying not to roll the knee inward, but rather keep it rolling outward. So this is all rotating from this inner hip area. Keeping that toe nice and flexed. We're going to take that same forward fold. If you want to use a block underneath you, you can. We're going to lift the hands up, inhale. Keep the tailbone glued to the mat just like we did earlier. Maybe you exhale, lower down. Palms can come in front of you. Palms can stay right here. And then you walk forward. Take a forward fold. Notice your toes here. Are they rolling inward? This is where you want to roll them outward. And you can point your toes as well, see the difference, see how that feels. I just like to flex them. That's my personal favorite and choice. And we're just working on doing this little half center split. Again, trying to keep the tailbone glued to the mat. Slight bow at the head if you'd like, or maybe take the gaze and keep it forward. And just let that sink in. Take a nice deep breath in, a nice sigh out. Very nice. On your next inhale, slowly start to walk up. And you're going to switch sides. Bring that right leg in, back to butterfly. Maybe you flap your wings once or twice and directly switch it over. Left leg out, directly to the side. Keep that right foot in. So you do have the option to point your toes. Just be mindful of that knee rolling in and out. So maybe you try rocking it, see how that feels. And then we'll roll it out. Lift the arms up, inhale. Exhale, slowly take a forward fold, bring the hands down and start to crawl the chest forward at your level of preference here. Pulling the hips back, getting a nice stretch here. Again, maybe you try pointing, see how that feels. You'll notice you might be able to go a little lower. So when you flex, you'll feel it more in that inner hip. Take a final breath in and slowly start to walk the hands back up to seated. Great job. Bring those knees back into the chest. We're going to meet in a tabletop position. So you're going to turn over facing the front of your mat, meeting in a nice tabletop position here. So you want to make sure when you're doing tabletop that you're creating a nice sturdy base here. So you want your hands to be right underneath your shoulders, creating nice beautiful lines. You want your knees to be right underneath your hips, and you want everything to be spaced apart. So your hands are shoulder width apart, your knees are about hip width apart, and you're creating a nice box or a rectangle with your body. And then from here, you're welcome to have your toes tucked. I do this because this is my choice. It helps my knees. But some people like to keep the tops of the feet onto the mat. That's completely fine as well. This is optional, so feel free to see which one you like better. And that can be your stance for your tabletop. So I'm going to do it with my tucked toes. From here, we're going to drop the belly, pulling the belly towards the mat, start to lift the tailbone up towards the ceiling. Start to take the gaze up with it. Roll the shoulders back. And we're going to enter our cow pose. And then we're going to exhale, counter that by pressing the hands into the mat and pressing away from the mat, round the spine, tuck the pelvic bone underneath, tuck the chin, entering cat. Switch it up, inhale, cow, exhale, round into your cat. So take a few of these, see how it feels, kind of getting familiar with rounding that spine and countering that stretch on that spine. You can do these at your pace. We're going to do 3 more breaths, 3 sets of breaths. So we're breathing in through the nose, and then we're rounding and exhaling. Inhale for the cow, exhale for your cat. 1 more set of breaths here. Exhale out. Great job. Bringing it back to that tabletop, getting a nice neutral spine here. Feel free to kind of rock forward and back. See how that feels on your wrists. We're just shifting the weight forward and back, but the hands are planted. Maybe you can even rock side to side. Again, shifting the weight, going off the grid a little bit. And then we're going to hold it into place so it's nice and centered. Shoulders stay stacked over those wrists. We're going to gently release the right hand and bring it onto our right hip, pressing the left hand into the mat, activating that core here. So we're really spreading those fingertips wide. Try to not shift the weight around in your knees. Try to keep everything exactly how it was when you were on all fours. Exhale, drop that right hand down. Switch sides. Press that right hand into the mat. Release the left hand again. No switching of the weight. Pressing that hand onto that hip. Strong shoulders here. Exhale, bring it back down. Let's try that one more time. Right hand up onto the hip. No shifting of the weight. Feel that core activation. I like to kind of tap my oblique here, see how it's doing. Exhale, back down. Left arm up onto the hip. So again, some people might naturally want to kind of shift around. We're trying really hard to keep everything locked into place, squared and straight. Exhale, back down. Very nice. So maybe you want to rock forward and back here if you'd like, in between little sets. That's completely fine. We're going to try our legs now. So from tabletop, extend the right leg out behind you. Try not to pull the hip to the left. Try to keep that hip facing forward and just gently extend the leg without shifting the weight over. So we're doing a little modified plank here. Exhale, bring that knee back and place it directly where you left it. Try not to shift the weight. Switch sides. So you're going to naturally want to pull the hip to the right. We're going to try not to do that and just kick it out directly behind us, straightening out. So this is all in our core here. This is all in our wrists and shoulders. So to avoid the pressure from the wrists, you want to really press into the mat and create a slight round in the spine so that that core is activated, relieving the pressure from the wrists. Bring that left knee back in. We're going to try that one more time. Right leg out. Hold here. Exhale in. Left leg out. Hold here. Exhale in. Very nice. Go ahead and open up your knees about mat width distance, pointing out towards the sides at a diagonal. Bring the tops of the feet down, pull the hips back. We're just going to rest our wrists for a couple of breaths, pulling the hips down so that they touch almost the heels. You're welcome to grab a blanket or a pillow and maybe sit on it to create some cushion underneath you. And then slowly start to crawl the chest forward, lowering down and tucking the head underneath, bringing the forehead onto the mat for child's pose. So we'll take a big inhale here, and on your exhale, try to release the tension and start to melt down, pulling the chest down onto the mat, even lower than before. Start to feel your hips opening up and widening. One more big breath. And just kind of releasing the tension from the wrists. You can kind of wiggle your fingers around here. And then gently start to walk back up. We're going to go back to that tabletop position. I'm going to remove the block from underneath me. Bring those knees back so that they're squared, creating that nice sturdy foundation yet again. Again, option to have the toes flat or tucked. From here, you're going to release that right hand, bring it back onto that hip. Keep that core engaged. So you can stay here if you'd like. If you want an extra challenge, we're going to try to do the same leg and the same arm. Excuse me, opposite arm, opposite leg. So we're going to have our right hand on our hip, extend the left leg out. So it's a lot of pressure here. Feel free to only do one or the other. If you're feeling like you're up for a challenge today, do both. Bring that hand back down. We'll switch sides here. So you're going to bring your right leg out, your left hand on your hip. Pressing into that right bottom hand, again, activating that core. Looking down at your fingertips for stability. Bring that hand back down. Switch sides. Let's try that one more time. Left leg out. Right hand on the hip. Nice. Now from here, you can stay right here if this feels good. If you want an added bonus, we're going to take a twist from here. Hand stays on the hip. Start to look up towards the ceiling on that right side for a gentle twist. Now if this is too much pressure, you can keep the knees in and only do the twist with the arm up. Exhale, gently bring it back down. Switch sides, right leg out, left hand, left hip. Stay here, inhale, or take a twist, looking up over that left shoulder to the ceiling. And again, if this is too much pressure, you can bring that knee back in and do the twist here. There's always options. That's the beauty of this practice. Bring it back to tabletop. We'll do one set of cat-cows just to neutralize that spine. Drop the belly, pulling the hips up and back. Gaze up. Inhale here. Exhale, round the spine. Tuck the chin, tuck the pelvic bone. Look between the legs. Little cat pose. Maybe when you're in cat, you can also incorporate other movements. Wag your little tail. That feels good on the lower back with a rounded spine. And then bring it back to a neutral tabletop. Very good. So we're going to gently press those hands into the mat. You're going to release the left leg from behind you and start to step it up. So you can step it in between you, maybe an extra step. So now it's right between the hands. So we're coming to a nice low lunge with the knee down. Be sure that that knee in front of you is stacked over that ankle. So you're creating nice lines here. And you can stay right here. Take a moment, see how this feels. Again, option to have that back foot flat or tucked. You'll notice a difference when you switch it up. We're going to stay right here. If you do have a block and you'd like to use it, you'll place that right underneath your right hand. Your right hand is right next to your big toe. From here, we're going to press that right hand into the mat, bring that left hand onto the hip, and take that same twist. We're going to look up, pressing that hand into the mat, gaze up over the shoulder to the ceiling. Very nice. Exhale down. That was our revolved low lunge. From here, keeping that toe tucked behind you, we're gonna slowly bring those hands up onto the hip and lift the chest up. Take a breath. Exhale, maybe you can sink down a little lower into that thigh until you feel a little bit of pressure. Again, be mindful that that knee does not surpass the toes, so you can press forward slightly. If you want a little bit more, you can press the hands into the lower back, rolling the shoulders back, and just keep the gaze forward. If you like a little more in your neck, take the gaze up. Take a few breaths here. And then exhale, gently release those hands. Keep the left hand onto the hip. We're going to release the right arm forward and bring it on the outside of that thigh. Wrap it around. Stay right here. You might wobble a little bit. Focus on something. Squeeze that back thigh. Stay here, and then we're going to twist and look over the left shoulder. Keep the left hand on the hip. Keep the right hand on the outside of the thigh. Keep the back nice and long. Great job. Make sure you're breathing here. Exhale, gently bring the hands back onto the hips and then lower the hands back down. Send the left knee back into the chest and then open back up to your child's pose. We're going to give our knees a little break. Open the knees up to the mat with distance. Tap the toes behind you. Send the hips back. Crawl the chest forward, lower down. Child's pose. Very nice. A nice little trick here too is maybe you want to grab something and place it underneath your forehead, creating a nice little cushion supporting the neck. Let a nice big sigh out. Really melt down, falling heavier and heavier, deeper to the mat. Next breath, inhale. Let's bring it back to that tabletop. Release the right leg from behind you. Step it up and wiggle between the fingertips back to that low lunge. So you can always wiggle and adjust. You can scoot your heel up a little bit more to deepen that lunge, or you can keep it back. This is your choice. Everybody's bodies are different. Some of us can go a little further than others, and that's okay. So you get it to your level of comfort here. If you're using a block, place the block underneath your left hand. And then from here, we're going to press into that left hand or block, bring the right hand onto the hip. So we've been here before on our other side. Stay here or take a twist. Look up over the right shoulder, looking up towards the ceiling. Take a breath. Release the breath out of the nose. Controlled breathing technique here. Or maybe a slight sigh out of the mouth. This is your choice. Keep the knee stacked over the ankle. We're trying to avoid this. We're trying to avoid this. This is very bad for our knees. On your exhale, we're going to rotate the chest back forward. I'm going to keep my hand here, and I'm going to gently squeeze that quad muscle, lift the chest up. Left hand joins onto the hip. So take a moment. You might feel a little wobbly. We're balancing here. Once you feel comfortable, maybe you press down forward into that front thigh and stretch that back thigh. You can stay here, or you can gently press back on that lower back, pressing it forward, rolling the shoulders back. Keeping the gaze forward, or maybe taking a slight peek up towards the ceiling, shifting your gaze. Make sure you're breathing here, bringing the torso back to neutral. Keep the right hand onto the hip, bring the left hand forward, and wrap the fingertips on the outside of the thigh. Try to stay away from the knee area. And we're just holding here, getting a nice twist. You can stay here or shift the gaze and look over your right shoulder. You can stay here or maybe shift the gaze and look towards the back. This is optional. Notice when you shift your gaze, it plays around with your balance a little bit. You can even close your eyes. That's always fun. Once you close your eyes, you're like, what just happened? Bringing it back to the center, release the hands onto the hips, and then exhale, bring the hands back down. Remove any block if you're using one. Bring the knees back into the chest and then open back up to child's pose. Very nice. Let's take 2 to 3 breaths here. These are going to be at your pace. Releasing tension in the knees, in the hips and back. Be sure to keep the forehead on the mat to keep the neck nice and straight, flat, and relaxed. Wherever you're at, take a final breath and then slowly start to bring it on up back to that tabletop. So from your tabletop, you're going to tuck the toes behind you. We're going to enter our first downward facing dog of our practice. Tuck the toes, press the hands into the mat, shift the weight forward so that those shoulders are right stacked over the wrists. Start to lift the knees off of the ground and start to pull the hips up and back, straightening the legs, creating a nice little teepee shape with our body for downward facing dog. So we're going to take a quick body scan here, make sure everything is where it needs to be. Fingertips and toes should be pointing forward to the front of the mat. Your hands should be apart where you left them, shoulder width apart. Your feet should also be hip width apart. And you want to try to work on pulling the chest back, trying to pull the hips up and high, heels down and low. Take a few breaths. Try not to shrug the shoulders here. Since this is our first down dog, you might want to try pedaling your feet here slightly by bending each knee side to side. You can also lift the heel while you pedal. Loosen up those hamstrings a bit. There's a lot of pressure in the shoulders, so if you notice that, try to keep the weight pressing back rather than forward to release that tension from those shoulders. So we're going to take one more breath here. Try not to rush. Make it a good long breath. And then we're going to start to shift the gaze looking at our top of our mat. Soften the knees and start to press the weight into the hands, shift the weight forward, and start to bear crawl up to the top of your mat. Keep the feet about hip width apart. There should be a nice space between your feet. Keep the knees soft here. Pull the hips down slightly. And then take a flat back. Inhale up. Look towards the front of your room or mat. Exhale, take a forward fold. Again, your knees can be soft, softly bent here. Maybe you grab the calves, the ankles, the thighs, wherever you like, and just slowly pull the chest in. Maybe with a softened knee or with a straight leg if you feel ready. And then we're going to grab our blocks. Bring that block right in front of you, tall side up. Press the hands onto the block. Inhale, take a flat back. Your hands could be on the mat as well. Exhale, take that forward fold once again. Very nice. Inhale, hold the block and start to roll up to standing. Bring the block all the way up above the head. So we're going to try to lengthen through the spine, pulling the block up, shoulders pulled away from the ears, squeezing the thighs and toes down into the mat. Inhale. On your exhale, send the hips over to the left and start to pull that block over to the right. Stretch that torso. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, switch sides. Pull the hips to the right. Pull the block to the left. Great job. Inhale up. Exhale, we're going to slowly lower down at the chest, softening the knees, and we're going to place this guy right in between our legs, in between our thighs. So if you don't have a block, again, you can grab a towel or a blanket, or you don't have to have anything. You can just keep your feet apart, and we're going to try to energetically press the knees together to squeeze that block or imaginary block in between our thighs. So we're activating our inner thighs here. And then we're going to come into Utkatasana, chair pose. Inhale, rise the chest up. So we're squeezing that block between our legs. And we want to take a quick little peek down, look at your toes, make sure you could see them. Make sure that everything is stacked here. You want to make sure that those knees don't surpass the toes. And you want to try to keep that back nice and long, nice and flat. Try not to round the spine here. We're tucking that pelvic bone up. So we're going to inhale here, sink down into that chair. Rise up to stand, and then exhale, sink down. So you can take this as slow as you like, squeezing that block together. Exhale down to your chair. Inhale up. Exhale down. And if this is too much pressure on the shoulders, feel free to bring your hands down to heart center. We're holding here on this third one. So we're going for 3, for 2, and our last one, wherever you're at, we're just going to hold here in our chair pose. Focus on something. Squeeze the thighs towards each other. Maybe you close the eyes here. Remember what brought you joy in the beginning of your practice. Think of that. Have a smile, have a laugh. And then inhale, rise up to stand. Swan dive down, release the hands, pull the hips back behind you. And if you'd like to remove that block, take it out of its place and then hang out for a breath or two. Soften the knees. Maybe you pedal out the feet. Very nice. And then we're going to go through our first vinyasa. We're going to press the hands down, step the right foot back, step the left foot back. We're going to shift the weight forward so that the shoulders stack over the wrists. You're going to notice a little core activation. And we're going to go through our chaturanga dandasana. So your toes can be tucked here or flat. Again, this is my preference to have tucked toes. Shifting the weight forward, you're going to lower the chest down, pulling the elbows back towards the back of the room, squeezing the sides of the rib cage, coming down all together. Then you're going to flip the tops of the feet, press the hips down, press the chest up for your cobra. And then gently tucking the toes, lift the hips up, send it back to downward facing dog. A nice big sigh out. Readjust your posture here if needed. Maybe pedal if you'd like. And then we're going to go back to the top of the mat. Gaze back to the front, soften the knees, baby steps up, or if you feel ready, you can take a hop. Feet are about hip width apart. Inhale, take that flat back once again. Exhale, pull the hips down. Soften the knees if you'd like. And then shoot the hips up for a forward fold Uttanasana. You can grab your ankles here, calves, big toes, or grab opposite elbows and hang heavy. Take a breath, take 2 breaths. Next breath, grab that block. Start to roll on up one vertebrae at a time. Digging the toes into the mat. Inhale, rise up to standing. Block is above the head. Exhale, pull the hips over to the right. Pull the block over to the left. Inhale, rise up, pulling the shoulders down away from the ears. Send the hips to the left. Block goes to the right. Inhale, up. Exhale, soften the knees. Bring the block in between the thighs. Squeeze the thighs together. Swing the hands up. Chair pose. Sink the hips down. Very nice. Again, option to have the hands at prayer, or maybe you want to reach up to the sky. We're going to rise up to stand on the inhale. Exhale, sink down to that chair. So you can take this as low as you like. Really work on squeezing those thighs together. Try to keep that block in place. Rising up here for 3, for 2. Wherever you're at, we're going to hold on this last one. Exhale down. Maybe your hands come down with you. Give your shoulders a nice little break. We're holding here. Take a quick peek down. Look at your toes. Make sure they're good. Maybe even wiggle them around. The weight should be towards the heels and not the toes. And then shoot those hands up. Swan dive down. Hips pull back. Remove the block if you're using one. Take that same forward fold. Inhale, flat back. Let's go through our vinyasa, our flow. Soften the knees, step the right and left leg back. So feel free to step back to a high plank if you'd like to do a full chaturanga. There's lots of options. I'm doing a modified version with the knees down. Send the weight forward, shoulders stacked over the wrists. Exhale, lower down. Chaturanga, Dandasana, everything with control. Flip the feet, pressing the tops of the feet and the pelvic bone into the mat. Lift the chest, slight micro bend in the elbows. Tuck the toes, lift the hips. Send it back, downward facing dog. Big sigh out. Very nice. From here, in our downward facing dog, you're going to step your big toes together, as close as we can to get them together. And then pressing that weight into that right foot, release the left foot up. Get a nice little hover, see how that feels. Balancing here on one leg for three-legged dog. Once you feel comfortable, maybe you lift a little higher until you can't lift anymore. Try to keep the hips squared, meaning we're not trying to rotate that hip outward. We're trying to keep it rocked inward. And you can point your toe here or flex your toe. Do what feels good. Exhale, drop that left heel, switch sides. Right leg rises up. And we're trying not to shift the weight from left or right. Really pressing that chest back towards the thighs. Look back at your back toes, wiggle them around. Exhale, bringing that heel back down. Great job. Open the feet up once again back to their normal position for downward dog. Gaze forward. Let's go back to that tabletop. Roll down. Option to go through plank and then drop the knees down. Very nice. Maybe start to shift the weight side to side, stretching out the glutes and the hips. And then we're going to swing the toes over to the right. Hips come down. We're just going to come to a nice seated position here. Feet in front. Scooch your hips up to your heels. Bring the knees together. If you'd like to use a block here, you can. Just like we did when we were seated, you can squeeze the block between the knees to work on engaging those inner thigh muscles. You can bring your hands behind you. We're going to lift up our heels and enter our bow pose. So we're lifting the heels, trying to keep the chest close to the thighs and vice versa. Maybe you lift one leg off of the ground. Maybe you lift both legs off of the ground. Activate that core. Your hands could stay here. Your hands can come up. Your hands could come behind the thighs. And if you're not using a block, I'll remove it for demonstration. Try to work on closing the gap, bringing the knees together, squeezing the knees together and the thighs together. Try to get those shins parallel to the ceiling. And if you notice you're all the way down here, try to lift your chest up. This is where your hands might come in handy. Boat pose. You should be shaking. We're here for one more breath. Inhale. Exhale, drop the feet down. Open them up hip width apart. And then we're going to come onto our backs. Take it nice and slow. There's no rush here. Keeping that nice space between the knees. Open up the arms out to the side. Keep both shoulders on the mat and rock the knees over to the right side. Let a nice big breath out. Inhale, take the knees up and gently rock the knees to the left. Both knees will drop down. Very nice. Inhale up. We'll do one more time each side. Knees go to the right. Option to look over your left shoulder. Gently inhale, bring the knees up. Send the knees left. Look over your right shoulder. So we're looking opposite ways, countering this stretch on our back, on our neck. Very great. Inhale, back up. Knees are now pointing up. If you have a strap, maybe grab your strap now. We're going to use it here in a second. I have my handy dandy strap right here. You're going to gently bring that left knee up into the chest. You can grab the back of the thigh or the knee. Maybe wiggle the toes or roll the ankle in a circle. Loosen up those joints. And if you have a strap and you would like to use it, we're going to grab that strap and wrap it around the bottom of the foot and start to straighten out our leg. Keep that right foot glued to the mat here, bottom of the foot there. And we're just going to focus only on our left side here. So we're using those strong muscles in our arms to pull at the straps and start to pull the foot above the head, trying to stretch that hamstring behind us. Let a nice big breath in and welcome that discomfort into the body. Those breaths of oxygen are going to start to relieve the pain, relieve that discomfort, and loosen up those muscles. Great job. Gently soften that knee, bringing that foot down. Release the strap. Drop that foot all the way down and switch sides. Right leg up into the chest. You can grab the front of the knee or the back of the thigh here and just pull that thigh close to the chest. Option to roll out your ankle, wiggle the toes. Take a breath or two, giving our thigh a nice big squeeze, and then grabbing our handy dandy strap. You're going to wrap that guy around the bottom of the foot. Start to straighten out that leg. So if you do not have a strap, no worries. You can still do this same stretch, keeping the hands at that thigh. You can also do this with a bent knee. You can have your knee bent and just work on pulling that thigh closer to the chest and eventually straightening out that leg in time. So you can be here, maybe point your toes, flex your toes. You can also grab your calf if you feel ready. On your exhale, gently bring that foot back down, both feet back down onto the mat. Keep those feet about hip width apart and walk your hands right next to the side of the body. Press the forearms and hands into the body and start to lift the hips up, squeezing the glutes and lower back. Your chin will gently tap your chest. Entering bridge pose, take a breath, squeeze the lower back and glutes, lift a little higher. Roll the shoulders back, creating a nice shape here with our chest. Exhale, slowly lower the hips down. Once you come all the way down, lift the knees and give yourself another big squeeze. Maybe take your knees in a circle or rock side to side. Getting a nice little massage on that spine. And we're going to go into Happy Baby, one of the most popular poses, I think. Options to grab the shins or the knees and pull the knees up towards the armpit area. Or you can lift your head and try to find either your big toes or the outer edges of your feet. And then lay back down and open up that groin, flex the feet, pull down at the feet, rolling the shoulders back. And then option to rock side to side. So this is always fun, very playful. Take a few breaths here as you start to loosen up and relax the body. Very nice. Gently releasing those feet. Bring those knees back in and drop the feet down. Extending those legs out in front of you. Stretching here. Reach from both ends of the room. Bottoms of the heels come together and pull down. Hands rise on up. Stretch here. Inhale. And then exhale. Open up. Let your ankles and wrists kind of fall out to the side however they will. Maybe your hands come out to the side, or maybe they come onto the belly. Take a moment to yourself to enter your Shavasana, your dead man's pose, your corpse pose, your happy place. We're going to take a few moments of silence here. Maybe close the eyes. Try to find something to focus on that's not stressful. Maybe just take a moment to take a breath or two. Think about how you feel. Try not to think about what's going to happen later, what you're going to do later, what you're going to eat later. Don't worry about that. We're just going to be in the now. How do you feel? Does your body feel relaxed? Does your mind feel peace? Does your heart feel joy? Any other thoughts that may slip into the mind? Take the moment to acknowledge those thoughts and allow yourself permission to put those aside for a couple of moments, giving yourself this well-deserved time to push pause on the crazy that we call life. To stop and smell the roses and appreciate everything we have, everything we can do, feel, and see. Take a moment now to acknowledge your body. Notice any areas of tension. If you're tightening up your face, locking your jaw, relax the jaw. If you're shrugging your shoulders, if your lower back is holding on to tension and it's tightening up, try to release everything. Take a few more breaths. Pull heavy, release down. Take a big inhale in through the nose. And open the mouth. Let everything out through the mouth. Notice your lower back falls heavy. Take another awakening breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. Start to wiggle the toes, rock the ankles side to side, nod the head. Maybe take another little stretch up, fluttering the eyes open. Start to bend the knees and roll over to your right or your left side, coming onto the side of the body, rolling through your fetal position. And then with your free hand, press yourself back up, and we're going to meet in an easy seated position, just like we started. Gently rise that right hand up, inhale. Reach over and grab your left ear, and just gently exhale, pull the head down towards the right shoulder, stretch the neck. Releasing that hand, switching sides, left arm up, reach across the head, grab your right ear, gently pull down towards the left shoulder, getting a nice stretch on that neck. And then releasing both hands onto the knees, take the head for a final spin, rolling the neck towards the back, rolling it towards the front, chin to chest. Great job. Inhale, rolling the shoulders back, fluttering the eyes open if they're not already. Bring those hands to heart center. Take this time now to maybe add a slight bow at the head. And take this time to give yourself that love and appreciation that you deserve every single day. Showing yourself some love, showing your neighbors some love. being kind to yourself as you are to others. The light in me honors, sees, and loves the light in all of you. Namaste. Thank you all so much for joining me today for this practice. I hope that whatever it brought to you, you can carry that on with you for the rest of your day, week, and year. Namaste.